All right, Mr. Benjamin, welcome. Everyone out there in Facebook land, IGTV land, wherever this finds you. Goliath Foundation tag team duo is here. Mr. Ben Smith, my brother. Yeah.
I can't resist. How are you, sexy boy?
Sexy boy. I love you. I love you, man.
Oh,
Gang, we're gonna Ben and I mean, hey, we're inner children. I mean, we're connected, inner child, baby. That's how we roll.
exactly.
So uh it's going to be interesting conversation today, Ben. I'm looking forward to this because you and I, we're heart led spiritual gangsters. we're
I love that. Heartland gangsters.
right. We're conscious guys, walking a line of happiness, and we just want to have conversations. We don't claim to be experts about anything. we just go with our heart. I want to shout out to you because I know it was a big weekend for you this past weekend, and we want to bring that into today's conversation, which is, this idea of restorative justice, right?
Yeah. So I did a full weekend, a 2-day workshop of restorative justice. And again, I kind of went into it not knowing that much about it, really. I mean, to be honest. And man, it like really sparked a lot of passion within me to kind of keep learning about it and doing what I can within the under the umbrella of restorative justice, because it's amazing. It's the way that we should be really dealing with things. And I think there's a long indigenous history of restorative justice practices with the way they within their culture have dealt with things. From what I understand, again, I'm no expert, but from what I understand, and it just seems like such a common sense, much better way of dealing with these issues that people deal with.
Yeah, and let's talk about that in a minute. I just want to say it from my lens too. It's something. It's like a sleek new sexy term, restorative justice. It just seems to be, at least in my circles, somewhat top of mind. We hear it a lot. Obviously, there's a lot going on here in Canada in terms of Indigenous as of late, as you know, in the past year, and again, that term has been brought to the forefront, and it's a term that is far greater than just a specific geographic location, like here, dealing with Indigenous. I mean, there's race, as you know, right? And there's the plight of the modern day woman, and there's a lot of stuff that falls under this umbrella. What were some of your highlights from the weekend? Like, what was there anything in particular that just kind of like blew you away, per se?
Actually, to tell you the truth, there was one. It all blew me away. Honestly, it all blew me away, and I was like super. Because I went into it thinking, I don't know if I'm going to last for a 2-day workshop, and it like sucked me right in. And I was like, oh my god, I can't wait till the next day, see what happens. But one thing that I found super interesting was, I guess, a fairly young Native kid, relative teenager, was convicted of a crime, and he was adjudicated through a system like a Native council, where they basically walked him through, like, how are we going to deal with this? What is going on? Like, how can we make this right? And it was much more of a collaborative thing with this kid. I mean, again, I'm only hearing it from the story that was told through this workshop, but like a much more collaborative idea of why did this happen? How can we make this right? How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again? How can we turn it around, basically, and basically bring it forward so that you are kind of more of a positive impact in the community because of what you've learned through this experience. You know what I mean? Like all these kinds of things, right?
So it seems like it was more like solution based as opposed to punishment based.
100%, 100%. But always, and again, this is what I love, always with the sensitivity of the victim, right? because we went over some of the second day we were talking about some of the sexual crimes and sexual crimes against women and children, this and that, and yeah, I mean, always being very, very sensitive of the victim, because I think a lot of times, and again, I'm no expert at all, but I think a lot of times in when a crimes are being adjudicated within the normal system or the traditional system that we go through, the victims have to relive it, they have to retell it, they have to be, well, what happened, and it's painful. It's not, and so a lot of victims, they don't want to come forward but in this restorative justice model that we talked about a little bit, it was like, well, let's not shame the victim at all.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's interesting because when you're talking about the pain and reliving the trauma, if we want to put a label on it, just like the term restorative justice, there's something, how do I make this into words? There's just some type of emotional undercurrent to the word justice, as if it's kind of like more of that older style of like, oh, justice, I got my justice. Or restorative justice is like, this is my crusade to make things right, it's interesting because hearing you say it, like even when I just think of the term, I think of it, and again, I'm like you, and then we're just talking here as it's landing. But I think of even the term restorative justice, I go to the old punishment style mentality, because the word justice just equates that to me. That's just in my opinion, no. Maybe you and I should come up with our restorative. We should come up with some type of, other name or something on it. I don't know.
Well, the thing that's so interesting though about people and just the way a lot of people who have not put a lot of thought into this think is like, well, there needs to be punishment for the crime, and it's like, maybe, but what does that solve, right? What does punishment solve? Because I remember, I'm going to tell a quick story, but I remember having a conversation with a whole bunch of guys on a job site, and it got into that conversation, well, because of something that happened in the news, well, what if your child was, or your daughter or whatever was raped and killed, and like it was just like a horrible crime like that. Well, they're all like, well, I would go find that guy and I would kill him and nothing would stop me. That conversation happens all the time, right? But the thing with that is, yeah, you could do that, and then you're going to end up in jail yourself, and all these things are going to happen. And what have you actually solved? Like, you haven't solved anything. And then, but on the other hand, you look at, like, again, to me, restorative justice, again, not being an expert or anything, but restorative justice to me feels a lot like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? Where something happens, something horrendous, a crime has happened, right? And instead of going out and seeking punishment so quickly, it's like, okay, how can we make sure this doesn't happen again? And to me, that's what restorative justice is. Like you think about that same model. Like, let's say, oh, somebody killed my child in drunk driving. I'm going to find that person. What have you done? You've done nothing. But take that same model and look at like that woman who started Mothers Against Drunk Driving. How many thousands and millions of lives has she probably saved? Right. And that's what restorative justice means to me.
That's a really great distinction, Ben, because we can focus on justice of the incident, or we can focus, as you're saying, on getting a resolution for the collective. How do we ensure that this never transpires again? How do we create awareness? Yeah, we can silo this, and do that. But in reality, what have we really fixed? My anger and frustration and loss of a loved one, let's say, and making that person getting the justice there. Where does it stop? Right. And then it's almost like an end game, dead end to a degree. Right. And what you're saying, which is really great, is it's how do we shift the thinking on this? How do we
Mm-hmm.
how do we rewrite the narrative of this moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, the reality is a lot of these people have issues. They have undiagnosed learning disabilities. They have, I mean, that was one thing that we really talked about the first one is all these, and as I'm listening to this, I'm like almost choking up because
Yeah.
again, I'm hearing all these things that basically describe me as a kid,
Yeah.
you know, and I basically was that kid that they're talking about, the high risk kid being arrested, and it's a miracle that I'm not in jail, that I wasn't in jail. But look
It's
at
a
the work
miracle
I'm doing.
it's a miracle you're alive.
It's true, but I
It
mean,
is.
but then look at the work I'm doing in the world. I
Yeah.
help. I'm help. I can't. You know, I mean, again, not to toot my own horn or whatever, but I've helped a lot of kids. I've helped a lot of people. I've helped a lot of parents to, because of my own process of restorative justice, where I found resolution for my pain or my crimes or whatever it is, and I
Mhm.
found wisdom, and I grew from it, and then I could pass it on, and that's what restorative justice is. Because nobody means to be bad, nobody wants to be bad, but
Right.
there's so many little twists and turns to it. I mean, with later learning disabilities from kids that are born with fetal alcohol syndrome or whatever, there's a lot of disability. I learned this weekend that there's a lot of cognitive issues that
Oh, sure.
transpire just from the baby has no choice, just from a woman just having a few drinks or
Oh,
just
yeah.
little things, and next thing you know, that kid is going down a system where they're being left behind, they're being
Mhm.
forgotten, they're being misdiagnosed, and then they get in the system, and then they become victims of the system, the criminal system, and that's
Yeah.
wrong.
I wanted to take a moment, Ben, and our man Marcus logged on and or
Oh,
commented. He said, I'll read you his comment because it's a good one. The preventative measures ultimately make a bigger difference. Right. So right. Very good. And then he
absolutely.
says, very, very good stuff, Ben. He gave you a little shout out there.
Well, very good stuff to Marcus too for his music, because
Yeah.
checked it out today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Marcus
Marcus. There you go.
Richardson.
Go to Marcus Richardson on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen.
Mark my words, Marcus.
Right. Musician extraordinaire. Just
Music.
what was it? 4 songs? Was it 4? I think.
Well, today, but I mean, he's got more.
Oh
Than
yeah,
that. Yeah. But yeah, it was great.
yeah. Cool
So
stuff.
this
Anyway,
could all be this is all going to be a shout out about Marcus.
I know. Poor Marcus is blowing up the comments. He's like, my boys, and he says, "Oh my God, guys, stop."
Check out Marcus Richardson. Mark my words, Marcus.
That's it.
We love him.
Marcus. For just everyone out there, though, actually, let's just take a moment to recognize Marcus. Marcus is, a young man that Ben and I spent 12 weeks with as part of our moving past pain, how healing happens. A group with some younger men, and it was a privilege to see him grow as well as the others, right? And that's why we're here, right? To help them.
I know, and Marcus really is such a. I mean, it's kind of weird. It feels weird to talk about him now, knowing that he's listening. But Marcus is really a special kid for sure. I'd say kid, but
to you and I, he's a kid, of course.
Yeah, for sure. But back to the topic. Like I think that again, I think about so many kids again, like I feel like I'm really doing having a positive impact in my community and the things I do. But yet had I not found that a way through that system of for myself or whatever the process was for me, basically of restorative justice, I would just be in a jail cell, and I would be of no value to anybody. And not only would I be of no value, I'd be a drain on the system for taxpayers and everything else. Instead, I'm a positive impact that anybody could be. Anybody, if we go the right channels of asking the right questions, like why is this happening? what's missing in the situation? Where are we failing this individual, right? Whether it's the victim or the perpetrator, right? Where
Correct.
are we as a community, as a society, failing these individuals? And let's fix
Mhm.
it so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and I think in some of the cases, because we talked indigenous and we talked well, like the work that I do with women too. We're kind of rewriting this script that's been written for hundreds of years. For women to behave and be judged by and so forth. It's like, how do we then, Ben? How do we let's break this conversation down then. How do we take restorative justice and apply it to something that was pre-established long ago, as opposed to um, something like with the Mothers Against Drunk Driving? That was a great example, and that was a specific thing, tangible. This was the cause, this was the effect, and then this boom. But in terms of um, race, for example, is that something that we have to go back, or how do we go back to root causes to create awareness, or do we not?
Well, I think let's be honest. I mean, I think you could look at it lots of different ways, but I think the work that you and I do with how healing happens is really saying, you know what, how long are we going to go back? Why don't we just start going forward now, right?
Uh-huh.
And I personally think, like I think there's a time to go back, and I think that, yes, there is value in that to a point, but I think it's much more important to let's start going forward, right? Let's start moving forward. Let's look ahead. Let's look at how we can all kind of help each other understand that maybe we had a rough go in the last 100 years or 200 years or 500 years or the last year or whatever. And yes, it's been rushed. Let's have compassion and empathy for one another, just straight across the board. Like see everybody as just a spiritual entity in this platform of Earth, in this time space reality right now, and we're all in this together. So let's experience that compassion and empathy, and just say, listen, let's go forward with an understanding that nobody means to be a villain, nobody means to be hurtful, but why are people doing this? And ask this continuously, right? Within our society, within our families, and whatever. What pain is this person suffering to, or lack of understanding do they have that causes these
So,
issues?
so good point. Good point. And I know the work that you really believe strongly in terms of happiness, and here at the Goliath Foundation, you are all about moving forward. Like the past is in the rearview mirror, literally, and for you, you've honed the ability in your life to look at anything you want in life like one big master switch.
Mm-hmm.
And when you want to move forward, you switch it and you go. And you just start to say, hey, like in happiness, I want to be happier. Boom. Well, let's start doing it. Like, and as opposed to the uh I'll say the old school or more widely approached way, if that's correct to say, that we have to get to the root. We have to peel
Mm-hmm.
back the layers of the onion, right, to get to that nugget that made you a miserable bastard or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying, well, fuck that. You can flip the switch and move forward.
Yeah, but I think people need to understand, when I say flip the switch, I'm not saying like, oh, ignore it. I'm saying change the perspective, because that's
Yeah,
what I do.
well, it's a conscious shift. You're conscious
Yeah,
is saying, okay,
it's a
I'm going to
conscious.
start to rewrite my own narrative right now,
Yeah,
moving forward. Right?
yeah, it's a conscious shift of perspective. So it's like, it's not that you don't look back, but you look back on, okay, how has this helped me? How has this put me in a great situation, in a great position to move forward? Because again, it's not that I don't look back. I look back all the time at the violence and the neglect
Sure.
and the this and that that have shaped me. But to me, it's like, oh, it made me stronger. It gave me these experiences. I never would have been a part. You know what I mean? It's like it's not about not looking. Sorry, not about not looking
Yeah.
back, but it's looking back in the most empowering way, right?
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. I think one of your distinguishing things, though, is while you may look back, you don't you. I'm putting words in your mouth, so correct me. Um, you don't try to understand the pain. It's not about understanding the pain and all of that. It's just about what do you want moving forward. Is that correct?
Um, what? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a point where where people should try to find peace with the pain if it's an issue. But again, like for all of this should be to move moving forward. Like, why are you going to dredge up pain or past painful memories or thoughts or this or that if it doesn't serve you? If you're going to go back there, try to find empower. Do it in an empowering way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've
Mhm.
learned so much. It's put me in this position to move forward, right? But don't look back just like, oh,
Well,
what you know.
yeah, that's a really, oh man, this is getting deep here because I feel, I do feel pain serves a purpose. I do.
Hmm.
I feel what happens if is that when people go back to understand the pain, let's say, many people, I'm just speaking, wide brush here. Many people aren't equipped to move past that pain. They get stuck in this purgatory of whether it's generational trauma or whatever it is, that pain festers and they're like stuck in this purgatory where they can't really move past it. Keeps sucking them back somehow, some way, right? Whether it's environmental, cultural, whatever it is, almost like, like it's like a drowning man, use an analogy, right? Like, it's like you keep getting a breath, but then, you like, it's like something is at your bottom of your feet pulling you back down.
Hmm.
And I feel that a lot of times people either don't have the support, don't have the education, um, or just aren't equipped to effectively break free, you know? And I
Hmm.
think that's what gets in the way of a lot of people, with with pain in general. With pain in
Hmm.
general, I mean, this doesn't, this doesn't have to be this defining cultural event. It could be pain for Joe, whatever Joe's thing is, right, in his life, his or her life, that they just can't fully escape from for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's crazy for sure. And again, I deal with it all the time with personal training clients, and some of the mental wellness people or the people that are struggling with mental wellness, whatever. I deal with it all the time. But I think that one of the biggest things that people can do, really, I believe, is just find a sense of acceptance of it. Right? It is what it is. It is what it is. Let's go forward. And I think that so many people they drown in it. They're like banging their head against it. It's just like, just surrender to it. Just, it is what it is. What do I want? I want to go forward. Let's just go forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think, well, actually, I know you're right. Acceptance is such a powerful thing, and if we tie it back to justice, in that old school mentality of justice, I feel that a lot of people get stuck. They can't have acceptance because they want vindication.
Hmm.
They're tied to having some sort of payback, for a lack of a better term, right?
Hmm.
And that keeps them from fully accepting it a lot of times,
Hmm.
and not being able to move on.
Yeah, but you look at, again, like again, I'm not super educated or anything like that, but I have my little heroes and stuff like that. And you look at somebody like Gandhi, for example. India was under British rule for a long, long time. There's a lot of problems with that, and there's a lot of injustice came out of that. And little Gandhi, just quietly, collected salt, and he quietly did the little things that he did, and he didn't look back. He didn't say, let's punish you, let's go to war, let's do everything. He just said, no, I'm just going to be who I am going to be. I'm going to hold my dignity high. You'll never be able to take my dignity, and I'm going to do what I believe is fair and just, and I'm just going to do it. And he never looked back, and he never tried to punish people, and he never tried to try to justify like the actions of the people. He just said, let's move forward, when there was a salt tax, when Indians were not allowed to, all those things, right? He just said, you know what, let's move forward, and you could throw me in jail, but again, I'm going to move forward because this is what's just. So that's the power of not seeking retribution, instead of seeking steps forward, solutions forward, right?
Yeah.
That's the power. There's other examples like that, but that's the power to galvanize millions of people, right?
That power that you're talking about with Gandhi is because it's acceptance.
It's acceptance, right? And it's the basic model. I mean, it's just a basic model of what we're talking about, right? Where it's like, let's move forward, let's do what's right, let's do what's just, let's understand that there's two sides to a story, but we don't have to say who's right and wrong. We just have to say what is right, and let's move towards what is right, and let's keep moving towards what is right.
Question for you. I'll put you on the spot.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it, sexy boy. Do it, sexy boy.
Is the population at large mentally equipped, spiritually evolved enough to have that presence to look forward, as in Gandhi, right? Because some of these amazing people, you also look at them and you're like, well, I mean, Gandhi's Gandhi, right? So he's like the Dalai Lama of whatever, right? Like he's just up there on the Mount Rushmore of iconic spiritual, thought-provoking change leaders in the history of the world. So he can do it. And he brought himself to do that. I've learned in my coaching tenure, in my life experiences, that most people are fucking jaded. Most people have preconceived notions. They have stories that they've created. They have their own fucking, hardwiring that they operate by. People aren't willing. People don't give a shit. Right? So then I guess my question is it up to I don't want to say chosen few, but is it up to the Gandhi wannabes to effectively try to change this collective?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say Gandhi wannabes.
I know.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like anything, right? You're gonna. I think you and I have talked about it, but I'm always saying, that the world is full of sheep. Just like, you go to any farm or whatever. I mean, I'm not a farmer. I'm talking about my ass here.
Farmer Ben.
I'm totally talking about my ass. But anyways, let's just imagine a farm where there's a whole bunch of sheep. There's a whole bunch of sheep. All it takes is one shepherd, right? All it takes is one shepherd to start guiding those sheep, right? So do we need a whole bunch of Gandhis running around? No, we just need enough shepherds to guide the sheep, right?
Yeah. I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in there a little bit to say that the human condition is a lot different than a herd of sheep, right? I mean, everyone's got their own level of self-importance and God knows what, right? Sheep are sheep, animals are animals. to a degree.
Yeah, and people are where they are, and it's okay. I think that the shepherds of the world are going to be the ones that understand that people are where they are, and we have to be patient with them. We have to understand that they're not all going to get it right away. Eventually, they're all going to get it. They'll have to get it eventually, but they're not going to all get it away right away. But the shepherds of the world
I
who
like that.
understand,
Yeah.
yeah, who understand what's going on, will just just say, listen, I know you don't understand, but I'm gonna give you a hug anyways, and you don't have to hug me back, but I'm gonna hug you because I understand that you're just not seeing the bigger picture here.
Mm.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not gonna I say it as a shepherd, I'm not gonna I'm not going to forsake you. I'm not going to lose sight of who you are. You're just a person who's lost, and I'll keep guiding you. And that's actually the way I look at the work I do with people. It's like a lot of times people, even the people I work with as personal trainer or with the mental wellness or whatever, I know that they're not really ready to hear some of these things. You can only
Mm.
hear what you're ready to hear, right? But my job, just like the shepherds of the world or the people who understand, is to not to judge and not to try and throw things down people's throat, but just to gently guide them as they're able to
Mhm.
hear it, right? And just gently guide them. And that's, again, what I believe the model of restorative justice is in some ways. I mean, there's obviously a lot more to it than that, but just looking at restorative justice on a global level, as far as shifting social consciousness, which I've always been talking about, not always, but I really believe in shifting social consciousness. It's gently guiding people. Some are going to hear, and they're going to be shepherds. Some are going to hear, but not be able to partake of it. They're going to be, they're going to wander in and out. Some are just going to be completely lost for a while, and that's okay. But we have to allow it all to be what it's going to be, because we don't understand why people do what they do, but we all can understand that people are people, and they have their story, and they have their history, and maybe they have those issues, that they were cognitive issues
Yeah.
or whatever that they were born with. There's a whole lot of things, but all of us within society can just gently move towards that place where we have empathy of one another, and we're living with that restorative model or restorative justice model just within our being, as people, as communities, as whatever, and just gently guiding those people until they start to understand it too, and they see it, and they just gently go
Yeah.
into the fold naturally, right?
You're absolutely right. I think that is the way. It may take a little bit longer, that soft approach, possibly the love approach. I do think, though, that is the way to get in. I mean, we both worked with hard-nosed clients, whether fitness, life, kids, whatever it is. We've had them. We've had those that they're coming from that side of the spectrum, and they don't want the lovey-dovey shit or whatever it is, right? Yet you and I have honed the ability, like you said, to figure out what's the dance for this person. How do I start to let the light, shine in through some cracks here? And we've seen it, and it works. Like, they'll blossom. When enough light gets through, right? It blossoms, and that's the thing. It's a beautiful thing when it happens. And then in terms of restorative justice, on a collective issue for any given topic, let's say, it's the same thing, which brings it back to your shepherds. Like, the shepherds need to spend time with the sheep. They, like, as opposed to just standing off on the side yelling at the sheep to get in line on your farm there, Mr. Farmer Ben, right? They're in there walking with the sheep, and like they're taking their time a little bit. Right?
And it takes patience, right? You have to be patient, because, again, what is the alternative? Because if you try to cram it down people's throat, well, then you have war. I mean, we're watching it right now. We've watched
Yeah.
it through all of history. You could try to make people go down that road, right? But what has that ever gotten us? Well, we can tell you what it's gotten.
Well,
Like it's war.
it's got us now having to deal with restorative justice
It's
because
got us
it's
exactly.
right.
The only way to do it, in my opinion, is to have enough people understand that we're all in this together, and we can stop looking at our differences and the reasons why we should be angry and the reasons why we should be upset and the reason why we should have resentment, and instead say, listen, let's go forward. Let's hug one another. Let's understand one another. Um, let's be partners in this time space where we're all sharing this earth, and let's move forward. And the people that are not getting it yet, we'll
Mhm.
just gently be ourselves. We'll be ourselves, and we'll do what we do. And we'll if people are falling off the rails or whatever, we'll lift them up. We'll hug them. We'll do whatever we need to do. But we'll stay the course. We'll stay the course of gentle, quiet, strong compassion, and a vision forward to a world where we're so many of these things that have been going on throughout so much of history um, will no longer be acceptable by the masses, where it just would be unacceptable to allow some of these crimes or some of this hate or some of this neglect or whatever to go on. It won't happen. And that's what I mean when I talk about shifting social consciousness. But again, it's part of that restorative justice model
Yeah.
of just having enough sheep, just understanding, like, listen, I'm not saying what you did is right, but let's move forward.
Yeah. 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 Right. Love it, Mr. Ben. All right. Let's wrap this puppy up today. Let's just lighten up for a second. Let's uh let's get a quick Ben Smith soundbite. What is what does happiness mean to Ben Smith?
Put me on the spot. Happiness to me is living every moment to the best of your ability. And by that I mean seeing the joy in every moment, because life doesn't last that long. So if you wake up, you should be happy. If you can walk to the coffee machine, be happy you can walk. Appreciate it. If you get that cup of coffee, it's all these
Yep.
little moment by moment appreciations for life,
Love it.
because soon you're not going to have it.
That's it. There it is. The moments in between the moments, as I like to say. Right.
Yeah, all the little
That's it.
moments that make up your life, don't take them for granted, because one day they're gone.
That's right. And make sure we're walking hand in hand with our inner child, baby.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
Mr. Smith, you rock, my friend. You are
Oh, no,
amazing.
you rock.
No, I said it first.
Come on, sexy boy. Come on.
Such a clown. Here we are having this restorative justice conversation. Sexy boy.
I can't help but be an ass.
Yeah, but you're just
I'm a, I'm a
you're an
lovable
amazing,
ass. I'm a lovable ass.
lovable ass. Love you. I don't know how Char puts up with you. God bless her.
Yeah,
Anyway, man, mad love to you as always. Keep it up. I know there's some really great things on the horizon for the Goliath, and you're stepping into this this mission more and more every day, which is really exciting for you because I get to obviously I'm behind the scenes, so I get to hear some things that you got going on. So it's really exciting. So mad love. Thanks for chatting with me for a while. We'll pick another topic and we'll just riff on it coming up. All right.
yeah, man. And again, mad love out to you for your book and all the things that you do. And dude,
We're trying. Hey, we're all our own shepherds, some way, some shape. So there you are. Cool, man.
Cool.
Love you. All right.
Love you too,
Ciao.
bro.
Thanks, everybody.